Y'all, my channel is sponsored by the Orchid Supply Store. It is literally your one-stop shop for anything and everything you could possibly need orchid related. They have pots, they have media, they even sell orchids. Use my name, code Hillbilly, in the code section for a 12% viewers discount. They also do free shipping in the US. So go check them out, y'all. Hey y'all, it is Paula with Hillbilly Orchids. Welcome back to my channel. Hope everybody's having a fantastic week, or weekend actually. Actually, this one's going to air Monday, so I guess it would have been a weekend. So, anyways, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the cold and your orchids. Now, there's some signs that you can watch for. Picking off a dead multiflora thing. There's some things that you can look for. Fowls are really prone to fuss and get angry at you for wet roots when temperatures drop. Okay, most of them do. Fowls show you by dropping a leaf, which is what happened to this one. I even took it out of moss. I had it in a high moss content, and it dropped a leaf over here on the side. I was afraid it was getting crown rot, but it doesn't appear that seems to be the case. So what happens is that in the wintertime, in all actuality, they like their roots to stay a little more on the drier side. Okay, so that's kind of hard when you've got them in moss. You need to really make sure that moss dries out, okay, and relatively quickly. If your moss is staying wet for like a week in the wintertime, no, that's not good. That is not good at all. Now, you need to make sure that you might have to change it. You need to make sure that those roots are drying out. A lot of times, you put, like I said, the reason I put more moss on them is because that some of my fowls were doing exceptionally better with a little bit more moss to them. So, but when it cools down, like today, it is a chilly 72 degrees in this grow space right now. And it's chilly. It is like I've got my Yeti clothes on because I am cold. And with this air circulating, I am cold. I'm cold. It's not a warm 72 at all. So for most of your fowls, they don't like this. They do not. I mean, most of the plants don't. Even the cattleyas really don't like it. But they deal with it decently when their roots are not wet. So there's a lot of times you can even ship like plants in like really cold temperatures. If they're bone dry, they can handle it. But if they're wet, they could see a risk of freezing, and then your plant's completely gone. So, it just depends. But really the key thing is that check those pots. And if those pots are wet and the media is still wet a week after you've watered them, then you need to change that. And that's exactly what I did. I took that one right out of that moss and I placed her back in bark because I didn't want to risk the chance of losing that entire plant. So, and that's what happens. That's some of the things that you need to watch for and pay more attention to when the weather changes, when things get colder. It wasn't an actual senescing like this one's doing. See this one, this Phalaenopsis Summer Rose Blue Star, is senescing that leaf. So it's different. See, this one was a second leaf from the top. And that's not right. That is a real big indication something's not happy about this plant. And I unpotted her, and she had great roots, but it was just too much moss for her. And that moss was probably staying too cool, which she doesn't really like. So yeah, go along with all your pots and check and see everybody is dry. that's dry. That is bone dry. This little guy, that's bone dry. That one, it's bone dry. There, that you just go along and make sure, check everybody's pots and make sure that everybody is dry, because you don't want wet roots and them to be cold and then turn around and drop them. It's real dangerous this time of year with that. Now, another thing to watch for is that you have to watch for when the temperatures come down, when your grow space is not as hot as it normally is. Another major thing to watch is mold. Sometimes your media will mold. So if it molds, you got to change it. Unfortunately, that's just the only way of fixing that. Some people put Fizan on them, but I just think that's too much. It's just as easy to, unpot the plant, clean up the roots. I wash them with a little bit of Dawn dish soap, and I repot with all brand new media, and that seems to work the best for me. I've never had any issues with doing that. And then I usually switch them back, like I said, from a less moss, and you'll have like in a collection as big as mine, you'll have a couple that will happen. That will happen. You'll have issues where, you'll get like one that's got some mold in it, or you'll get one that's staying too wet. It just happens. Generally, when they got as much roots as this little girl had, I'm kind of surprised that it wasn't really soaking up the water, because the rest of these are. The rest of these are really, they've got good roots and they're really soaking up the water. So, and right now they're only getting watered every other week. So they're going 2 weeks, they get 2 weeks to completely dry out. And it doesn't really hurt them this time of year, because they're not really growing. They're not really pushing themselves. They're not, this is not their optimal time of year to be growing and need to be, pushing any leaves or anything like that. Right now, the phals are pushing spikes, but that's something that they've been preparing for. That's something that they've been storing their nutrients and such for. So they're pretty well ready for that. So once the temperatures changed, some of them, like this one, is senescing a leaf and showing me that, something needs to be upped a little bit more with her. But for the most part, everybody seems to be holding, tried and true to, keeping their leaves and pushing out their spikes. So far, so good with that one. I was trying to think if there's anything else. Of course, you won't water as much when it's colder. Like I said, I water once every other week. So they get, I think I mean like every 2 weeks. Like last weekend was watering week, so I won't water this weekend. I'll water the following weekend. So it's really like they get 2 weeks apart. So to basically make that sound a little bit better. But yeah, it's, I do still, the Vandas are still soaking today. I haven't took them out of water yet, but they soaked overnight. I told you guys in the weekend walk around that I do still take them down. They get soaked once a week, right along, and they don't fuss with being soaked overnight in cooler water temperatures. It doesn't seem to faze them, especially when they've got a big mass of roots like my big pink girl here. So, she's still soaking, and I haven't put the Vandas back up yet. But I will. They'll get done here, as soon as I get done making this video, and I'll hang them back up. But for the most part, everybody's pots are pretty well dry, and if they're not, then it's time to take them to the table, replace their bark, and go from there. But those are some of the key things to look for. They can mold this time of year. They can stay too wet this time of year. And generally, if a phal its leaves stay wet and its roots stay wet too long, you'll notice, because it'll drop a leaf in a weird place. Like drop it. Not really like senescent. It will drop it. It'll be green just like it should be, and they'll drop a leaf. And yeah, that's kind of dangerous. That sometimes gives you an indication it might be getting crown rot or stem rot. But sometimes it don't. Sometimes it's just because the roots were just too wet for too long. And they'll drop a leaf like that. So just pay attention. Pay attention to your pots and treat everybody accordingly. Like I said, in this big of a collection, you might need to do a few different things with a few different plants. Now, if your collection's smaller, it might not be as much. You know, you might not have to deal with the cooler temperatures like everybody else. I do still water in here when it's 72 degrees if it's watering week, because they need some nutrients and they need some water. But I really try to make sure that I, flush them through the pot, and I make sure that they're not sitting in water. And yeah, you just a few things that you got to be careful with, because when the temperatures change, it is a big deal for these guys. Like I said, they don't really like it. These guys like it warm. They like it, high humidity. That's their time of year. That's when they shine. So once the warm temperatures come back, you'll notice a big, huge change in all these plants. But right now, you got to kind of slow things down a little bit, because they're not in full growth mode. They're slowed down. They are, being very, very slow about what they're doing. And just make sure that your medias are drying out. So, but yeah, I just wanted to cover a couple of things with you on that, because that leaf did drop, and I was like, that is a good explanation. You probably seen it in the Weewa fall, and I was like, ooh, yikes. So I had to take that down and address it. I wished I'd have showed you while I was doing it, but I just got done with that video and had to get it done and uploaded for today. So, yeah, so I was busy trying to do that. And I really couldn't, but, we're talking about it after the fact, because those are certain things that you need to look for when the temperatures cool down. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. And if you could give me a thumbs up, that would be terrific. If you could give me a share, that would be awesome. If you could give me a super thanks to help for my foul wall and my Hoya wall, that would be amazing. So with that said, I do appreciate each and every one of you beautiful, wonderful people stopping by and hanging out with me. And bye for now, y'all, till we meet again.